Hurt.
Alrighty, we are live. If you guys want to share it, I'm almost at the level that we've been doing this for easily going on 2 quarters now.
Yeah.
This is I'm getting to a point where I'm comfortable and it's doing well. So
I was surprised looking back. The first, like, we did one in June. Like when we first, like Euno and I, when we first started, I think so technically it's been almost 9 months.
yeah, we're coming up on a year of me and Dan doing it.
Yeah,
it'll be a few months, but like this, I think this iteration works the best.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to figure out
No, I like
is
this.
like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to do the around the horn thing, where I can just sit in the back and you guys can fight, and I'll like give points and shit and just be the moderator. I think that'll be more fun for me and for you guys too, since you guys make good points and argue.
Well, especially now that Around the Horn is going away.
That's what kind of brought it up. Yeah. It's kind of sad, huh? End of an era.
I mean, I haven't watched it in forever, but yeah, it was like TBT. It was nice to know it was there.
Murph, any thoughts on Around the Horn?
I mean, I loved it growing up. I mean, I saw it on TV not a little bit ago, but it was kind of like I didn't really fully recognize a lot of the people in there. Tony Reale is like the only guy who's stuck around, I think, at this point.
Wait, didn't you play flag football with like Israel Gutierrez?
He's in the same National League. I wouldn't say we play in the same league. He plays He plays in the Miami one. But when you go to like Gable, he's obviously representing Miami.
I see.
But I wouldn't say I've like playing with him. I don't think we were even in the same division.
Okay.
So LA versus Miami. So yeah. But yes,
Okay.
I've been at the same tournament as him.
Cool. All right. Well, what are we doing? I need to start the music and start the show. We're 2 minutes and 10 seconds into this. Cue the music. Oh, not like that. Welcome, one and all, to another edition of Everyone Hates Us, a podcast dedicated to the art of winning in the beautiful sport of baseball and football and basketball. Sorry, hockey. Sometimes soccer when these guys force it on me. Well, we had a little bit of hockey coverage. It was like Four Nations. We only talked about the biggest thing to happen in hockey in like, since Wayne Gretzky. And today we're going to talk about. We're going to start off with a little bit of a little coach's corner, but we'll give you a little life update, and then we'll get into baseball, the NFL offseason, NCAA March Madness. Those are some of the things that we're going to try to cover today. And some interesting fashion choices from the MLB this year. It's been pretty interesting. So Murph and I, what am I doing? I'm Lee. I'm your host, Lee, joined by my gracious co-host, Collin Murphy, Dan Grievitz. Had an interesting weekend. Collin and I went to Mexico City, and we went to the Estadio Olímpico. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, close enough. Yeah. That's how I pronounce it.
To watch Cruz Azul versus Monterrey. And I believe Sergio Ramos was there. And I think the best part of that was, celebrating the goal. The game was a 1-1 tie. It was a brutal watch. I think Murph can do a better breakdown than that, because I don't fucking give a shit about this stuff. But honestly, the best part was every time Sergio Ramos touched the ball, the crowd booed like just very loudly. Like they were ready. They were ready. So I got to give credit to the crowd for booing every time Ramos touched the ball. As Dan explained on an earlier episode, the Cruz Azul mascot is a anthropomorphic bag of cement.
Hell yeah, it is.
And I made sure to get one of those for my son. So we currently have one of those in my house. It is huge. I had to literally get another bag just to put it in so I could take it on my flight. It's pretty big. But yeah, great mascot. Great environment. Snacks, pretty good. I don't know, Murph. What'd you think about the snacks? What were you thinking?
Oh yeah, I mean, they didn't really have, well, from what I could tell, concession stands the way that you normally see in like a lot of American stadiums, but they just more had a bunch of vendors coming by the seats like constantly, and they were pretty good about that and going back and forth. So yeah, they had quite the little run of different stuff there between the popcorn, churros, and some of the other things. I was more on a liquid diet for the game.
You certainly were.
But yes, it was a lot of fun, especially, I think a lot of times it could be good when the road team scores first to kind of get the home team to try and push a little bit more. Unfortunately, it was Ramos who was getting booed the entire game. Was the one that scored the early goal, but it was nice to see Azul equalize. And then, I mean, it really looked like Azul was going to come back for a little bit there, but then take the lead. But I think in the end of the day, they were probably lucky to get out with a draw because Monterrey kind of controlled the back like 10-15 minutes of that match, like pretty aggressively. I feel
on
like
the heels of a red card, I might add. So it was really just like, yeah, they were practically parked on the Monterrey side, just taking chance after chance. And I think I was like whispering in Ping's ear, like, this is some elite level shit right now. Like the touches were pretty horrendous. Like a couple of them were just bungled. Like the chances were myriad. The conversions were precious and non-existent for much of the second half, if not the entire second half. So a fun game. I was a little worried. The crowd was quite upset at the refs. It was starting to get a little testy.
I mean, that red card really did kind of come out of nowhere. It wasn't like it was a second yellow or anything. And just with some of the take fouls and stuff you'd seen breaking play up for most of the match, to go straight red at that point seemed a little aggressive. But we were maybe further up. We obviously didn't see a replay. They weren't going to replay that at the stadium. So, I don't want to like make any definitive statements there, but kind of to get wrapped up with the crowd where I kind of felt it felt harsh for the home team. Yeah.
Stuff was thrown on the field. I
mean, that was expected. I feel anyone that's watched, some international games.
I was gonna say, like everything you're saying sounds pretty par for the course for a Liga MX game, like a regular season.
Stuff getting thrown on the field, like
people being very mad at the refs.
Anthropomorphic cement walking around a track.
Yeah, sort of sloppy play, but still some exciting results. Like a lot of missed chances, but then a comeback goal and everything. Like it's part of it. Sounds like you got the full experience.
We certainly did. So, and then the snacks, well, obviously, the one thing that I should note is that they put this like hot sauce on everything. Straight up like on nuts, on potato chips, on popcorn, where it doesn't work out. I would not recommend poor Bargo.
Bargo he was still mad about that all Sunday. Even after you had left, he was still complaining about how the hot sauce not really getting absorbed in the popcorn, just kind of like held into like the plastic on the side.
Murph, when you eat popcorn and you put it in your mouth, if you leave it there, like say you just keep it in your mouth for a little bit because you're watching something and you didn't remember to chew, it melts because your saliva is wet and popcorn melts. Basically, it just kind of like disintegrates, right?
I've never held popcorn in my mouth long enough.
If you held it in your mouth long enough to do that, you would understand that pouring hot sauce into it is going to have a similar effect of basically just kind of, compromising the structural integrity of the popcorn kernel, right? Like, am I wrong here? Like, this is just something that commonly happens.
Yeah, for sure. It's wet popcorn, which is not ideal.
It's wet effing popcorn. Like potato chips, I get, because those will probably stay somewhat crispy. They'll have like a little bit of a soft, crispy thing going on, but
soggy popcorn, yeah.
Popcorn. That was popcorn soup. It was pretty gnarly to see them eating it. But in fairness, I guess that's how some people like it. You do have like a little section then, because they squirt it into like a section of the bag. So then you could just dip it in the sauce and eat it right away, which sounds
better.
Ideal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a pretty lean situation. I liked it. So we got back from Mexico City, and Murph, actually, I got back on Sunday night. Murph got back Monday morning. And then he texts me. He was like, "Hey, you want to go hang out?" So we ended up going to Topgolf. Day, Murph, and I ended up going to Topgolf and hitting some balls. And let me just real quick sidebar. Apparently, Murph and my son are like best friends. Like they freaking love each other. It is crazy. First of all, Collin doesn't strike me as the one who's going to be good with kids. All right, like those of you who know Collin outside of this podcast know him as someone who is probably he has some spicy takes. He likes to kind of ruffle feathers. That is his style. When he hangs out with my son, he turns into like the nicest human being I've ever seen. And then quickly reverts to talking shit to me. But like he'll go back to my son and then treat him really nicely. And my son eats it up. He freaking loves Uncle Collin. Literally asked me this morning, "Are we gonna see Uncle Collin?" And I'm like, "No." Like, what the hell? You think this is something that happens all the time? So yeah. Quick sidebar: Collin is great with kids for some reason, and especially with my son for some reason. I don't understand
It's
it.
great
But,
getting him to cheer for Euno or Appa every time he shanks a shot in Topgolf.
that became a thing where he started like cheering for me. Like, and I'm like, I turned around, I'm like, your ass better stop that. Like, I literally like pointed my golf club at my son, was like, you better stop. But
No,
speaking of which,
I can get him to clap up and down for it. Yeah. It's
oh,
pretty great.
he was just clapping at every shot, right? But I was just healing the crap out of the ball. It was so annoying. And then to hear my son and Collin cheering in the back, I was like, oh, I have no son. That's not why I'm bringing this up. I'm bringing this up because my son, then I tried to like teach him how to swing the golf club. And what happened was at some point he was like, okay, I got it now. I'll figure, I know how to do it by myself now. And of course he, makes a mess and stinks it up. And I had a moment where like something in my head just kind of went bing. Like I was just like, hey, like, did you notice you didn't score and that you suck? Like I was just like being a total jerk to him. And even Murph was like, wow, that's a little harsh. And I was like, no, he needs to learn. He gonna learn today. Okay. And I had that moment. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because that's the thing I hate about youth sports. It's like that the parent is overbearing. They're doing too much to try to like, they kind of take the enjoyment out of it. If my son wants to hit a golf ball errantly with the heel of the club, that's his choice. Like I should let him do it, and instead I see this thing and I'm frustrated by it. And my instinct is to like, hey, don't do that. Like fix your swing. That's horrible. You're looking bad. You're not scoring, like stuff like that. And I wanted to introduce this segment where we're going to start talking probably a little bit about coaching or sports and stuff like that. But it's like there's an interesting question that was posed on Reddit, a subreddit for basketball coaches that I wanted to talk about with you guys. So, and the reason being, I think youth sports culture, Collin and I and Dan, of course, actually, all worked in youth sports at some point, whether as coaches or as part of Baller TV, where we were going around kind of like being around that all the time. Murph and I especially have spent a lot of time just being around crazy youth sports parents. So kind of want to talk about this and maybe shed some light on it, especially as I get towards, or Day gets towards the age of being a youth sports athlete, and just kind of put some perspective on it, because I think some of this culture is getting really out of hand. So to that point, there was this question on Reddit, and I'm going to read it to our listeners. It's like a basketball coaching subreddit, and I'm just going to read it in its edited entirety. Okay, I'm in need of some advice. I coach a rec team of 5th and 6th graders. As with a lot of rec teams, we are a blend of kids who have not played at all and 1 or 2 kids who have played since they were small. This is important for context. This season has been extremely challenging, but also incredibly rewarding. It became evident pretty quickly that this game was going to be funky. As background info, our league does not allow double teams of any kind. You can help if your teammate gets beat, but you have to back off once he recovers. From the first possession of the game on, our opponent lined up the on-ball defender right at half court and strategically placed the second defender at the free throw line, waiting to trap as the ball handler. Sorry. Wow, this is really bad. Okay.
Spoilers.
As the ball handler attempted to get by on the ball, to get by the on-ball pressure. They aggressively denied with 2 of the other defenders and had the final player ready to protect the rim. Every time they left alone the least viable of our players, kids who struggle to so much as catch the ball, and even if they do, they can easily be displaced of it. It's a rec league. Every team has these kids. We have done individual skill drills with all of the kids and even done extra work with a couple of these ones in particular, so it sort of is what it is. I pointed this out to the ref several times to no avail. To me, the most embarrassing thing that can happen for a coach is for his team to want to quit. And he went in detail basically about like the team didn't score. Like they got 5 shots up the whole game and had 3 points or something. And they got absolutely annihilated. It's a freaking rec league, guys. But at the same time, I want to know your guys' perspective on this. 5th and 6th graders. So we're not talking about, these young, tender age, like, 8-year-olds and 7-year-olds. They're starting to get to adolescence. And, I remember I cared about basketball playing competitively in my rec league at that time. Murph, start us off. Like, what are you making of this? Because you've coached ball. You obviously played ball at the college level, and you kind of know, like, yeah, what's the rule here, or like what should we do here?
So, I mean, typically the way I kind of track a lot of these things, especially when you're talking about rec leagues to an extent, is it's all fair game until once you get a certain lead. So, first off, even though it's rec, I think the general expectation is you should try to be trying to win it at the very least. Otherwise, like, what are we even doing here? Why are we even keeping score? That's what like church leagues and stuff are for. If you're like just completely not caring about that at all, like don't even put a scoreboard up. But I mean, especially like the context of this question, once you hit a certain point, I do think, the other coach, he has a duty to call the dogs off, so to speak. And, whether that means like switching off, this is kind of like a form of a press type situation with the double to kind of playing a sagged off man to other things, maybe even switching into a zone at some point, if that's even legal in the thing, but basically switching up to a softer defense to try and get it. Cause no one's really learning or getting better if they're not even able to like kind of get passes off and everything else. I don't even think it's super exciting for the team that's controlling. I mean, I played on around this age group when I was in middle school. We did like there was a kind of this round robin setup where we played a bunch of different teams. Some, one of them was in Anchorage and they just absolutely roasted us. They had a bunch of kids that were a little older than us, and I think they beat us like 64-6. We got completely pounded. But then we flipped around. We played another team that we were able to kind of boat race to a similar level. But at a certain point, whatever, especially after halftime, we stopped pressing. We started playing back. You start doing things where it's like 5-10 passes before you can put a shot up. You start executing other things and trying like work on being better as a team rather than trying to humiliate an opponent. And I think that's kind of where the other coach needs to kind of step up and kind of do that. I feel bad for the coach on this one. If a coach wants to turn the screws on you, there's really not a whole lot you can do on it. If they're going to, from him, he's asked, what should I do? Short of anything else, all you can really do is kind of complain about it. I was talking before the show even about how I briefly coached when I was in high school, my little brother's team, and I got a technical foul as a head coach for employing an illegal play. And basically what happened was I had set up a play on a baseline out of bounds. It's a stack inbounds play. And I was going to lob it up to our tallest kid for kind of to give him a good shot. The league, I had not read the rules. The league didn't allow you to stack 4 players. And so I got technical for running that, even though every team, professional, college, everyone runs a stack play. But the reason why they didn't allow stack plays was because this one parent used to stick all 4 kids into the corner because it was man defense only, and he'd have his kid play one-on-one with the guy guarding him. And this led to other coaches basically just forfeiting because they didn't want to have a game where only one kid got to play defense and everyone else got to stand in the corner and do nothing. And kind of the mockeries made it. So anyways, the league banned this type of play. And that's really all you can do at a certain point if people are going to try and ruin, the, I guess, parity and not even parity, I guess the fairness and the funness of the game. And at that point, the coach is going to have to switch. So what I always say is it sounds weak to say, but sometimes walking off and doing something is the most effective thing you can do. If sure, like the super competitive person might enjoy having the walkover wins, but at a certain point when he realizes that no one's willing to play with them, they're going to have to start to reconsider. And once a bunch of teams decide that they didn't want to play with this one-on-one, 4 people stacked in the corner offense, his kid was good, so which didn't make things any better. But at a certain point, like the team itself, wherever, is going to pretty much revolt on the coach, and the parents are going to get mad watching their kids sit in the corner. They're going to get mad watching all their games get canceled because people don't want to show up. And that's really the only effective way to kind of deal with stuff like this, because yeah, I mean, if your team is outclassed to the extent that this team seems to be outclassed, it's just nothing you can really do. And if the coach is continuing to turn the screws on you when the game's well out of reach, it's kind of a lack of class and respect being shown by him. And the only recourse is to, potentially forfeit. And once it gets too out of hand, and save your kids the misery, because as weak as it feels to sometimes feel like you're forfeiting or walking off, from the vibe I've heard from the way this guy was explaining it, the kids are completely demoralized well before this game is over. They're not getting anything out of this. So it's honestly potentially even like the best move for you to do, just for the psyche of your kids. And then, it's also a good time to just know also that when you're on the flip side of this, how you should be acting, and, kind of play off, there are lots of different things coaches can do. But I really, to answer his direct question, there's not really a whole lot you can do besides complain, potentially threaten to walk off, talk to the refs more. I think everyone's dealt with competitive coaches that are willing to turn the screws like this. And then when they do, you kind of just need that people to act a little bit more humanely in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of what you said. I guess first and foremost, you have to question like what these kids are there for. Like this is they're trying. Like I completely agree. Like keeping score is important, and like trying to win is important. Like that, because that's part of the fun. Like for example, I remember the first year that I played organized basketball. I was 10 years old, so close to where these people were in age. First game I ever played, I had never watched a full basketball game before. I literally hadn't even been to practice because I signed up late. I just like showed up to the game, and the coach put me in the lineup because I was tall. But he like basically gave me the breakdown of the rules right before the game. Like he was like, you have to dribble to move. You have to like, you can't step on this line. Like he gave me a quick breakdown. And yeah, it was fun to go out there and sort of figure it out as we went. And that team was objectively awful. We lost every game except one that year. But it made that one game super special. That one game that we actually figured it out towards the end of the season and sort of like came together. And for example, in my case, that was the one game that I actually managed to score a basket. I was like, it was like a season of frustration, but it was fun. But it led up to that moment of actually culminating in scoring and winning a game, and to have that was great. And it sort of gave me the itch for sports that eventually I kept playing and would score more than one basket a season. But yeah, I think there has to be a balance. Like, what are like it in a setting where like point differential matters, and you're like having rankings, and like like people are like, the coaches are being paid to be there, and like being paid based on the success of the team and everything like that. I understand running up the score to like show just how good your team is, just how much better it is. But in this sort of setting, like if you're clearly that much better, like what are you trying to prove? What are you trying to like? What are you here for? If you're just trying to like spam this one defense that clearly the other team doesn't know how to counteract, if that's the entire game, then it just sort of defeats the purpose. And I agree. Like, I think it's a failure of the refs first and foremost. Like, this league has the rules in play. Like, this league doesn't allow double teams. Like, this clearly is a league that has rules attempting to make the game a little more accessible to people, because these are still pretty young kids. But this one guy is, he figured out something that kids in this age range aren't able to, like figure out on the fly and sort of dominate the game that way. But it sort of defeats the whole purpose of the league. Like, so yeah, I would say it's first and foremost a problem of the ref, and yeah, I agree. Like, walking off would be a good way to underline that, because like, what are we doing here if that's the case?
Man, look at these opinions of like people who, these are not everyone hates us types of opinions, guys. Like, I think my takeaway from this is a couple things. I think Murph touched on it. This is a very boring way to play. Like,
Yeah.
On defense, it's miserable. Like, you're basically just doing this, spamming this every time, and to the point that sometimes it's an interesting takeaway. Like, interesting thing that I look at is like, winning sometimes is boring. Like, winning is boring sometimes. Like, look at the Spurs. It's boring. All right. Like, sorry, there's nothing sexy about Tim Duncan. All right. Like, except for his dreads. I love his post-retirement dreads. But but Tim Duncan playing defense is not sexy. All right. Like, these European guys you never heard of, just like Manu Ginobili, like Euro stepping through the lane, is not sexy. Winning is not sexy.
I think of all the players to pick, you picked like the most exciting player that they had.
That is the most exciting player.
Despite my Brazilian anti-Argentinian sentiments, I have to agree. He was a lot of fun.
As opposed to LeBron doing like, windmill jams and,
sure, but
Heats, like Miami Heat helter skelter or transition defense, like transition basketball, like basically just like track meet basketball. Like, that's way more fun to watch. Are you kidding me? Like, oh, they got a steal. Oh, there's a dunk coming. Like,
I mean, their central star's signature move was a bank shot. Like, that's
it's pretty disgusting. So like, yeah, sometimes winning isn't fun. And the other thing is that, yeah, I'm actually, obviously I'm with you guys. Now, from the perspective of a dad, if it was my kid who was on the wrong side of this, like, what do you tell him? And I think the thing I would tell them is like, look how much they care about a fucking rec basketball game. Like, honestly, it's like, it's to the point where you're willing to ruin it for everybody else so that you can, get this little win. And then I would tell them like, hey, like, it's just not that big a deal to us, man. Like, if it was, we would have done something similar, right? Like, if it was, we would do this to other people, but it's not in us to do that, And I think that's the thing Murph kind of touched on that I really appreciated was, hey, when it's our turn to do that, just act differently. Like, we're just going to be different. We're not going to do that. We're going to, if we need to do that, like, either it's like a championship game or something where like, if we win, we get free Gatorade. Like, all right, cool. I get that. All right. Y'all need to line up and set up the trap. Okay. Like, I want that Gatorade. But if it's like, you're up 40 or you're up 20 in a youth rec game, in youth rec basketball with like, maybe a lot of inexperienced players, 20 is insurmountable. Essentially, it's over at that point. It's like one of those things. So it's just like, just let it slide. And so,
I mean, also like you have like other guys that you could be using, like get them some reps, get them comfortable, have someone else bring the ball up, let your big shoot a three, or maybe, run the offense through a guy that normally doesn't take a lot of shots. Like, you don't need to be playing your studs like the whole way against players that they're overmatching. Like, that's not even fun for them.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the same thing. Like, that's an opportunity to, try your lesser used players, try and like see what else you can do and like experiment with plays, do something fun, like try and prepare stuff for when you do play a tough opponent. Like, because just spanning this one play isn't going to work against every team, and you're just sort of wasting your own time along with everyone else's. Like,
we get to make a point, and it's, you're
It's a
sick and
dumb
tired
point.
of this participation trophy culture, and you want to really just turn the screws and let these kids know you can't. Life is hard, and life is like this sometimes.
Yeah, that's a stupid point.
The only time, well, maybe not the only time, but the main one I remember growing up where we turned the screws on someone was in C-team football. We played at Palmer, and they moved the game from the actual field to the practice field, which was like, grass wasn't cut, it was waterlogged, it was like kind of a muddy thing. It was tough for us to kind of get our footing. We ended up winning because we were much better than them. We knew that they moved it for that reason anyway. When we played the reverse game at our home field, we did go up 94-0 and knelt the ball in the red zone to intentionally not hit 100.
I'm sorry, did you say 94-0?
Yeah. But we did rotate. Like we were on like our 4th string quarterback. Our linemen were taking running plays. Like we'd started to mix it in. That the other team also knew we were out for vengeance, and like 3 of their best players elected not to play. I think they were sick, which no one really believed.
Yeah, they got the Murphy flu. Collin's coming to town.
I mean, because they were, cross town, and they knew that the whole team was pretty livid about their coach's move, and that we were gonna make a point to them on that. But that's probably the only time I remember being a part of something where you could probably criticize our actions. Yeah, but we did also kneel it out in the red zone instead of taking the 100. So
Oh, super classy. I think that's almost more insulting. Like
we went, we're good. We went 2 for 10, I think, on extra points. They were trying to kick. We could have gone for 2 and scored pretty much.
94 is a weird number, I will admit. Yeah.
I can't remember exact thing, but yeah, we tried to kick the extra point through the uprights, and we were really bad at it. But we kept trying it. That was one of the nicer things we were doing.
Hey, we suck at kicking, so after we score this touchdown, what we'll do is
I guess my point though is that was provocative and retaliation. Whether fans justified it or not is another thing. But we also rotated all of our guys through.
Yeah, I think that by itself makes it a different situation.
So that's my question.
But
okay, where is that line? Yeah, where's that line? Like, when is it okay to do this? Right? Because it's like there are some times where it's okay to do this, right? Like it's like you hurt one of our players on purpose.
Yeah. For me, it's different in football though, because of the downs and the way the game is structured, that like if you can just break off long runs, there's not really a whole lot you can do. You can't tell a guy to go down. Also, that's almost even more rude than anything else. Like you can rotate, you can switch things out. No, I don't think so.
Murph, 20-minute like Philadelphia Eagles drive, where you're just punishing them. Like 1st down run, 2nd down run, 3rd down run, 4th down run, kneel, run, kneel, run the clock. Like
no, because you're not making yourself better doing anything either. Like so.
Yeah, that starts to feel more like this game, the example that we're talking about. Like it's sort of gimmicky for the sake of being gimmicky.
But like basketball, I think it's actually very easy to kind of control things. Because even as I mentioned, wherever we used to play where, 5-10 passes before you can put a shot up, because there's no shot clock in these lower leagues anyway. So there's a lot of things you can do. Obviously decrease your man pressure is like another big thing you can do. There are a lot of different options. Try and, utilize players that get fewer shots. Try and manufacture stuff for them. Run plays for guys you normally don't. Like the basketball, I think is a lot easier to engineer. Like a lower, to stop running it up once you get to like 40. While other sports, I think it can be tough. Soccer, football, some of those could be pretty difficult if you really, really just outclass another team.
Soccer, you can just back pass it all day. You just kind of like. All right,
that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. You can tiki-taka and say that you have to get X amount of passes in before you're even allowed a shot on goal. I forgot. We did do that before. I think it was like 20 or 25 passes before we were allowed to shoot on goal.
I wouldn't even be able to count to 25 after all that much running. I would just be like, what are we on, guys?
I'll be honest, we were having a tough time keeping on track too. So the thing was, you made sure you wanted to go really far over because you knew the coach was counting and he was going to punish us if we didn't. So
guys, if it's a single 125, we're all running. So you
exactly. So you better just make sure you're like 5 over minimum, to feel really good about it.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, youth sports is the funny thing in that way. It's just like the delicate balance of competitiveness and sportsmanship. Like this is where it's kind of formed. If you think about it, this is ground zero for all of that. Like this is where you learn what sportsmanship looks like, what competitiveness looks like. And then it kind of stays with you for a good long while. If you go pro, you get to see that. But some people, they just kind of stop short of that. They might not play water polo and Spain, some stuff like that. I was playing water polo until high school, kind of knew I wasn't going to ever be a starter or anything like that. So, cause the guy who was starting was Clayton. You guys met him, Clayton. He started as a freshman. He was working out with the high school team in 8th grade. And I was like, I'm not going to start in front of you, dude. I don't know. Newsflash, bro. Like, I'm not making it up to varsity and doing all that. So I was just like, all right, I'm out. But all those lessons that you learn while you're doing it, that kind of sticks with you. And what is competitiveness? When is it okay to run up the score? Like, and you kind of refine that instinct over time. So I thought youth sports is a good place to kind of talk about that, because it does inform, like, what would you teach your kid if it was you, you know? And that's a question that, for me, pretty exciting, but like, it's a question that might be coming up sooner rather than later, right? Like, I literally got Day his first glove today from Target, and I was like throwing him the ball, and he was like starting to pick it up. Like, he kind of knew to throw the ball into the glove and then like throw it. And I was like, dude, you're 2.5. You're mimicking what you see on TV. I love it. So yeah, that might be coming up. So that's why I thought the segment was a good idea, was just talk about, like, you know, what do we think about competitiveness? Where's that delicate balance between competitiveness and, you know, sportsmanship, and, you know, being respectful, you know, respecting the game, respecting your opponent, all that stuff. And where do you land on it? You know, and I think we'd have 3 different answers, you know, between the 3 of us. So
Yeah, I mean, I think the line is relatively subjective, but yeah, I think the age range also makes a difference. Like, I don't think Day's going to be in a league that should worry too much about competitiveness anytime soon. Like when I was coaching 6 to 8 year olds at the YMCA, like, I was telling y'all before the pod, I had basically the LeBron of the league, and I like, whenever I wanted to, I could tell them to pass the ball, but the refs would ask me, like, hey, could you stop giving the ball to Eric for a while? And I'd be like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then, you know, like, or they would ask me to sub him out for a little bit, and I'd be like, yeah, no problem. The other team would come back a little, and then I could put him back. And like, yeah, it was, you know, it really depends on the league. But like, if you're, you know, young, like, I think, yeah, most of the leagues is more about, yeah, learning the game and sort of like having fun while you're doing it. And only as you getting older does it get more oriented. Of course, there was still parents that got really mad at me when I wasn't getting the ball to their kid, or we're yelling at the refs, but that's sort of unavoidable. But yeah, I think it really, yeah, I agree that the line is probably different for all of us, but yeah, I wouldn't worry about that with Day just yet.
yeah, I mean,
And my
if he
caveat,
throws at you, hit it out the park, pimp the home run, throw the bat on the ground, stare him down as you walk to first. Do not take a single step of run towards first. You walk to first, okay? And then you trot around the bases, staring him down, and keep doing the DX suck it sign, you know, like, keep doing this as you're getting to third. And as you get home, make sure you get one big good suck it as you bounce on home right at the pitcher.
I mean, it's coach pitching T-ball to start, so the poor pitcher had nothing to do with that. Like, you're either taunting your own coach who threw the pitch, or you're taunting a T. And there's just a poor kid there with a glove who had nothing to do with that ball getting yoked.
What did I do? Why is they so mean to me?
Well, it's important to practice these sorts of fundamentals early on, you know. Want to get those reps in so that comes
all I care is that he hits dingers and has a very good bat flip. That's what I care about as a parent. I don't give a shit if you win or lose. What was your stat line? How many total bases did you get? That's what I want to know. Yeah, no, this is gonna be a fun topic down the line. But yeah, I just thought I'd open that up. Speaking of baseball, fellas, do we play it?
You know you want to.
I mean,
go for it.
You know, it's kind of sucks. You know,
tradition at this point.
Yankees lose.
All right.
It does feel a little rude to do it after an injury. We'll throw that in. As we're talking about sportsmanship and everything.
Hey, you know
yeah,
what?
But this is different. They're getting paid.
You know what the nadir of sportsmanship is when your fan tugs on our right fielder's arm to rip a ball out of his glove, and then he gets to go on like Barstool and like talk about it, and he's like celebrated for it.
I mean, that seems very Barstooly. Yeah, I don't see the problem here.
To me, that is like, that's an example of like really bad sportsmanship. And, and you know,
so is playing the Yankees lose when their starting pitcher gets hurt.
Game 5, top 5. Smallest violation.
I would argue there's levels to this for sure.
There's certainly levels. I'm not going to make fun of the Yankees for having all these injuries. I'll let David Ortiz do that. My thing is Gerrit Cole needing Tommy John. Luis Gil also out to start the season.
Like 3 months, something like that.
This sucks, dude. If you're a Yankee fan, this stinks. And like, there is reason to believe that you guys might miss the playoffs this year. You lost Soto. You don't have him from last year. I guess you got a little bit better. You know, you added Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt. Who knows what Paul Goldschmidt does, you know? But guys, my question is there an AL team you're scared of? And for our listeners, Colin Murphy is a huge Diamondbacks fan, Arizona Diamondbacks fan. And Dan, of course, Dan and I are Dodger fans. And I think it's fair to say that the NL competitors are definitely competitive. They are definitely pushing chips in. When you see Corbin Burns getting signed to the D-backs, and then they also go out and get Kendall Graveman, that's like their way of saying like, hey, yeah, this is our window. We're going in. Phillies obviously have been in contention for the last like half decade between Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, that insane pitching staff, etc. Is there an AL team that scares you? Like, is the AL like kind of like the Eastern Conference of the NBA back in the early aughts, the turn of the millennium?
I think that's maybe a little strong. What I would say, obviously, is you guys as Dodger fans might have a different view of this. As a Diamondbacks fan, anyone we'd be potentially meeting in a World Series, hypothetical, is going to be on our level, and it's going to be a very, very difficult series for us. Like, that's just we're not tiers better than the top tier of the AL. But what I will say is that I think all the top AL teams have taken a step back from what they were recently. I mean, the Yankees were the representative that we saw recently. Soto's gone. Gerrit Cole's now out for the year. That's two pretty marquee names to not have, on your team anymore. The Orioles have been a very good regular season team the last couple of years. They lost Corbin Burns. They also lost spacing on the position player, Santander.
Santander, yeah.
Yep. So they lost him. Then you're talking about the Astros. They lost Kyle Tucker. And so I think all those kind of top teams have kind of lost guys, so to speak. The only teams that I feel like maybe got something here would be the Rangers and the Red Sox. The Red Sox didn't make the playoffs last year. The Twins and the Guardians kind of both stayed pat, after to slight sell after, kind of having decent seasons on their end. Yeah. I think this even came out when we did our tiers list. The AL just didn't really have a lot of teams that made giant moves this offseason. And a lot of the top seeded teams actually kind of lost blue chip guys. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't compare it to some of those 2000s Eastern Conference NBA teams. That was absolutely ridiculous. Plus basketball is just different, where the best team wins more often and there's less things to worry about. When we all knew that Spurs Sun series, for instance, whoever won that was going to dog walk the Cavs. I don't think we have anything
so rude to our king
to that level. So he was the prince that was promised at that point. He wasn't really the king. He had no MVPs, hadn't never won a final game. I wouldn't say he was anyone's king. But the prince that was promised.
How do we stop LeBron? Just make sure he doesn't get in the paint. Make him shoot. Okay. 4-0 Spurs. That's it. That's a wrap. Roll credits.
Having Bruce Bowen on the perimeter and Tim Duncan at the rim is a great way to stop.
Sorry, Brian. You're gonna have to shoot it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I generally agree with Colin's takes on the AL teams. That, I think I feel like, you usually look at this from a Dodger centric perspective, through a Dodger lens. And yeah, compared to a team like the Dodgers, that's essentially constructed like a Death Star right now. And there's recognizable names top to bottom in the rotation and in the lineup. Yeah. There's no AL team that measures up to that sort of thing. But in baseball, again, yeah, a team with the better roster isn't going to win every time. And there's a lot of solid teams. The Yankees might not make the playoffs, but they might still make the playoffs just because of the talent that they do have. They're in a very competitive division, and you could easily see them finishing, third or fourth if the Blue Jays and the Orioles and the Rays and like the Red Sox, they all have solid teams. Like they could easily have great years, but yeah, there's no team that sort of stands out like, oh wow, that's a roster. They're all sort of pretty good. So I think it'll really shake down to who stays healthy and who gets like good years out of their guys. Like it'll be very marginal, I think, because or if a big trade happens and sort of shakes things up. But otherwise, yeah, it's a lot of solid teams. But at the same time, there's not a lot of like awful teams. Like it seems like at least going in it. What's that?
Chi Sox.
Yes, of course. There is there is the exception, but there's a lot of like, it should be relatively evenly matched and interesting. And yeah, whoever comes out will be solid. I doubt it'll be and like I mean, for example, like we talked about the Orioles, for example, like they didn't do very much in this offseason. They lost their big star, and they lost two of their big stars, but they replaced them with less than exciting replacements like Tyler O'Neill and Charlie Morton and guys like that. But they still have that exciting young core with Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson and a whole bunch of good young players, and they could still, like, if they start hitting in the playoffs, like they could start doing something. And you could argue like the Red Sox we talked about, like they didn't do that much until the very end when they picked up Bregman, but that's still a solid roster. And if they come together at the right time, I could see them making some noise in the playoffs. Like there's a lot of like B plus teams, and in baseball that's sometimes good enough.
Yeah, we had a couple of them in 23, but sorry.
No, I mean that's honestly just another great example, though, because obviously the Diamondbacks probably weren't a super feared team heading in, and then they had one of the most dominant series of all time when they swept the Dodgers, where they led for 25 of the 27 innings, and the other two it was tied 0-0. So it it's kind of just speaking of like a roster that maybe you didn't fear heading in, and then they I mean, dog walking is almost, complimentary to what the Dodgers put up in that series.
All right. Okay.
So
the point I'm trying to make here is that, to Dan's point, it's a lot of B plus teams, but we got some solid A's. It's not just the Dodgers. I mean, Dodgers are an A plus, like whatever. Let's just take the Dodgers out of this equation. Teams like the Phillies, the Braves when they're healthy, those are like. And I put the D-backs in there as well. Like, they are locked and loaded. They came to, like, win. They're not here to, like, mess around. And the Braves, like, there wasn't much loading to do. It's just, we got to get healthy. That's it. Spencer comes back. Acuna comes back. Schwellenbach gets another year of development. Like, that's pretty much all you need. Like, all right, we're going to war. And I'm like, I'd go to war on that. That's a hell of a roster. I do like Philly, same thing.
What you mentioned with the Braves is because the Braves really are that team where they just play their guys. They don't rotate. They have their 9 guys in the lineup, and they pretty much put them out there every single day. Matt Olson, you saw him every single day. Like, they don't really rotate any of their people because they're like, these are our best players, and they're going to play every single day, and we're going to win, like, live or die with them.
But they're freaking good.
They are.
Yeah.
That lineup's good.
It's like still good.
I agree that there are, at the top, there's a lot of NL teams that would be the best team in the AL. Like,
is the point I'm trying to make, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and it's not, and obviously, we all know about the variance of baseball and how things go, as Murph so eloquently pointed out in 2023, right? Like, it is, it's not a sport where like, hey, we have Shaq, we're steamrolling the Western Conference, see you in the finals, right? It is definitely like, hey, like, this is a real thing. Like, it's like, what I'm wondering is,
unless you have a pitcher like on one in the playoffs, right up there.
like a Brandon Pfaadt or Madison Bumgarner.
Madison Bumgarner, yeah, that's the equivalent of.
You just have one
Shaq
on one.
Yeah,
yeah, that's our LeBron against Detroit Pistons.
Poor Royals.
They only needed one. So my thing is, it is also about kind of no team is stepping up in the AL. Like, you have the opportunity to kind of like seize the momentum here and be like, hey, we have an A+ team now, right? Or we have an A- team. in a sea full of B plus teams, right? Like, and so I guess on one hand the parity's fun, but on the other hand it's like, yo, you guys aren't paying players still, and you're just gonna roll out with what you got. Like the Braves, I get why you're not playing players. You have like, you know, a freaking MVP candidate, a perennial MVP candidate, and like a bunch of great contracts, and Matt Olson at first. You were so comfortable with Matt Olson at first that you literally just like, you know, ghosted Freddie. You know, like that's a well-run organization, dude. They're like, we have a backup plan to the backup plan, and we're gonna be fine. We have all this depth. Like Austin Riley is 2 seasons removed from absolute raking, right? Like, so this is like kind of what we're looking at here. And what I'm saying is there's no AL team that has that. AL, I feel like it's
the deadline can change that and change it pretty quickly. And I think honestly, the depth of the NL is going to make it very attractive for the AL to be buyers, because there's no way that all these teams in the NL are going to be competitive at the deadline. Like you could easily see a situation where like the Mets, Cubs, Brewers, Diamondbacks, Padres, one of those teams isn't in it where they thought they might be. And then now they're selling off pieces to a point where the AL teams, because they didn't really sign much in free agency, they're going to be a lot more comfortable taking on salary at the deadline. You could definitely see some teams like leveling up at that direction. I think that's what makes baseball kind of so much different from the other sports. The NBA trade deadline gets a lot of things because you normally get like a big player to move, but the MLB one is really one where you start shoring up like and gearing up for the postseason run. And it's so consistent, you know, it's going to happen every single year. And I think you don't know how injuries are going to play into it, obviously, but I think with all these B plus squads, someone's on a heater into July and thinking that they like where they're at with their health and everything, and they start picking apart some underachieving NL or AL teams. All of a sudden, like that team could end up being like, you know, I don't think anyone's going to hit Dodgers level, not going to hit the A plus, but you could definitely see like an A like level team that probably isn't batting an eye and would fancy their chances as like and consider themselves favorites in every non-Dodgers matchup. And I don't think that's too crazy to look into and see. I mean, I just think from my own perspective, like if the Diamondbacks have like a rough season or start to the year, like Gallen, Burns, and Merrill Kelly are 3 starting pitchers. Like those are all guys are all going to be on the block if we vastly underperform to start this year. Like that is just an absolute guarantee that's going to happen. So
I don't think Burns is going to be on the block, but
I mean, I think so, because with the player opt-in and stuff, I think we absolutely would float the idea. If we think the season's going to be lost, I think Kendrick would love to get out of the contract if he could. And
literally made it about money. Just
well, I mean, it's always about money. Like that's kind of the whole thing when it comes to this thing. The reason why he paid was to have Burns reinforce Gallen in Gallen's last year in the desert and try and like build a real contender for this year. If for some reason we're snake bitten, pun intended, and like everyone's hurt and stuff, we find ourselves like way out of it, I absolutely wouldn't be crazy to see a fire sale. The Padres have been teasing a fire sale with how they did the whole offseason.
That's
and
what
they still have
I'm
a lot of talented players.
Who's going to be the organ donors this year, Murph? Like, no,
I
Dan.
mean,
who's going to be the organ donors this year?
The team selling off?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think at least with the AL, like it really is going to depend on who gets hot, who gets hurt, like where teams are at the deadline. It's hard to predict because they are sort of all in this B range. And I mean, it makes sense. Like if you see all your rivals on your side of the bracket in the AL, like sort of no one's pushing in the chips, like to sort of hold back and like wait and see what's gonna happen. And then in the NL, like I could see, like, because so many teams have pushed in the proverbial chips and have ace squads, like there are teams that will be left out. Like there will be talented teams that will be left out of the shuffle. And you could see the Padres sort of start to give their stuff away. But like playing, there's like, I mean, I'm looking through these rosters. There's like, there's good players. But it's hard to predict exactly. Like I'm not organ donors. I don't know.
I have a hot take.
Yeah.
The Mariners.
The pitch. I mean, there's been rumors about those pitchers for a while.
I think they're gonna break it up. If they can't move Castillo, they have to move somebody else. But it's looking real dicey over there. Like And it kills me because J-Rod, but like I need for our listeners, like I own J-Rod memorabilia that like could be pretty
they've
valuable if he does well. But
insisted on not picking up any bats, just sort of rolling
that's
with.
the thing. That's the thing is like they're just like, hey, we're gonna run it back. They think they're the Atlanta Braves or something. Like J-Rod, JP Crawford, Cal Raleigh.
I mean, that
Like,
Victor Robles is probably going to be the leadoff hitter to start the season. Like,
yuck.
They're just young. They're just betting on him being like continuing his hot stretch from the end of last year. Which, yeah, I mean, maybe that was the philosophy. They're like, we already got our big cut. Victor Robles finally figured it out.
Victor Robles.
But I mean, I think this though just goes back to the fact that like baseball is a lot harder to predict in that sense. Like NBA and NFL, like you kind of know who the contenders are going to be heading into the year. There's not really a ton of massive surprises, and maybe there's a deadline deal that like flips it for one team. NBA really only. The NFL never. Their deadline's always kind of quiet in comparison. But the MLB really is one where you can see a giant reshuffling at the deadline that really changes title odds. I mean, just think even though the 2017 finals, like the Astros getting Verlander was absolutely crucial to them, coming out and then eventually winning the chip. So things can turn pretty fast in the MLB as compared to other sports.
And yeah, small pieces like we talked about over and over in these last playoffs. Like the Dodgers didn't make a big move in the trade deadline, but they picked up Tommy Edman and Michael Kopech and a bunch of like small pieces that really rounded out the team and were all essential in the playoff run. Like that, I think that sort of without those guys, that sort of run would have been much harder.
I don't think it happens.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think it happens. We needed Flaherty. We needed Kopech. We needed Tommy Edman.
We definitely need. Yeah,
we definitely needed Tommy Edman. So yeah, definitely. I think that's something to watch. I think AL teams like I think the ears kind of perk up a little bit now because they know like the Yankees. Cause I would put the Yankees roster, at least their rotation, at an A- level. Like pre-injury.
Oh yeah,
healthy Gerrit Cole, healthy Luis Heel, like. That's an A- level team for sure, right? But like now you lost Cole for the year, you lost Heel for a good chunk of time. Your
Max Fried is all
Max Fried, yeah.
Suddenly, Marcus Stroman is back in the back in a key part of that rotation.
I'm back like I never left, baby. Man, after they complained about his contract, right? Like
yeah. Well. Welcome back, buddy.
Marcus Stroman is why you couldn't. Yeah, the guy who's the reason why you couldn't sign anybody this offseason is, Anyway, yeah,
I bet they regret leaving out Clay Holmes, newly minted starter from their roster. In the offseason, they could have used starter Clay Holmes now.
I bet the Yankee fans are just dying to see Clay Holmes, pitch for longer than an inning. Oh God! So I think my thing is
number 3 starter Clay Holmes. Sorry,
still better than the Mets number 3 starter. So I think that the point being the AL should I'm curious to see which AL team emerges as the proverbial chip pusher, right? Like who's going to push their chips in to be the AL rep. Which of course is not any sort of remotely any sort of guarantee that they will be the AL rep in the World Series, but like, the team that's kind of aggressive. Cause I'm kind of curious if was a weirdly an offseason that felt kind of in flux. It felt like things weren't moving as quickly. The money wasn't as quick to flow. It was very like the deals felt very, we're going to wait and see. We're going to wait and see. We're going to make a trade. We're going to try to backfill. We can get 80% of Alex Bregman if we just do this, and it's just, like it's been
but much more on the AL side. Like you had this sort of arms race feeling in the Dodgers kept acquiring guys and people kept being mad about that. And the Mets sort of made their move with the giant Soto contract. So there was some proactive stuff happening but all on one side of the league between the teams that were already really good there. And then like that brought the reaction from the Diamondbacks with Burns and like it was all sort of in the NL, and then the AL sort of just seemed content to stay like the only team that was making moves really was the Yankees to sort of compensate for losing Soto, and they made a few signings, but now with their injuries, that cancels that out, and yeah, everyone's sort of in this little cloud. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. But yeah, pretty even playing field, like unusual. Although it does hurt the chances of your Astros Taps prediction coming through.
Yeah, that everybody else got worse. Yeah, I mean, what can I do? But you traded away Kyle Tucker, you deserve Taps. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
Only it was like everyone else told you that was premature.
you traded away Kyle Tucker. I'm playing Taps. Like, are you kidding me, bro? I know he's not the best hitter on the team, but he's damn near.
He's a great player. He's
no Yordan Alvarez, but he's damn near. All right, like.
But no, they still have Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah, but wouldn't you rather have Yordan and Kyle Tucker?
Sure.
And
but in the AL, where all the teams are like
Alex Bregman back, like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like,
of course.
Wouldn't you rather have those guys back? Like, don't you feel like you're hemorrhaging talent right now a little bit?
I mean, the poor little Astros in the fourth biggest TV market in the U.S. can't hold on to these big.
They freaking act like they're the Cincinnati Reds or something. It's insane. Like, oh, just makes me sick. Anyway, yeah, I will give the Rangers credit for pushing their chips in. And to Colin's point, he did bring that up as one of the teams that kind of did something and was a little frisky. So,
yeah, I mean, the AL teams that I'm very curious about going into the year are the Rangers and the Red Sox. I think they're both going to make some noise.
Yeah. Well, we'll be right back with some more fun stuff. But until then, yeah, thanks for joining us so far. And we'll be back with NCAA and some other stuff. NFL offseason. All right. Let's just get into it. And we're back. So, NFL offseason has been very interesting. I heard an interesting thing the other day. They said, after you win the Super Bowl, the first day after the Super Bowl, your team is trash. It's like, it's all back to your team is trash. And I'm like, you're right. It's happening, boys. This team is getting broken apart. We lost Josh Sweat. So I obviously am a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. I knew this day was coming. I didn't think that our third string defensive tackle was going to get paid 9 figures, but that's the world I woke up in today. Josh Sweat also gone. The Eagles are hemorrhaging talent. They kept the guys that they wanted, as in, I guess we wanted Zach Bond, which, okay, no brainer. And I guess we wanted Saquon Barkley again. And so we renewed our vows with Saquon Barkley and gave him an additional, $4.5 million a year, $3.5 million a year. I don't know, guys. This first thing, what's the first transaction that you're thinking of right now when you think of NFL season? Like, whoa, what the? Like, what's your first one? Dan?
Trying to sort of resetting my memory here. I like the Metcalf trade. I think if they pick up Rodgers as they're rumored, that could be an interesting offense. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a shuffle of a lot of like mid-tier quarterbacks. So there's been a lot of movement, but not like I'm not, excited about the Seahawks getting Darnold or the Raiders getting Geno Smith or anything like that. Like they'll be solid or not, but like it's fine. Like they're not, nothing's like crazy.
Sums it up.
Yeah. But yeah, some of the like Davante Adams in LA with Stafford resigning and Puka Nacua still there. That could be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. There hasn't been, or at least not off the top of my head, one that. Yeah, those are the ones that spring to mind. The like DK Metcalf and yeah, like Fields is going to the Jets, which is a very Jets move.
Is that the most Jets thing you heard this week? Because holy moly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you in the sense that I do think that the Seahawks kind of are at the moment at the forefront of everything. Metcalf traded away, Tyler Lockett released, Geno Smith traded, signed Darnold. Like most of the action, the biggest names have all dealt with the Seahawks. So they've definitely been the most interesting team. I don't know how much this fundamentally moves things around for them though. Yeah. After we've seen where all the chips are, their offense I think is going to take a step back regardless. a lot of people are going to blame that on moving on from Geno to Darnold, but when you lose Metcalf and Lockett, I mean, you have JSN, but I don't know if that necessarily offsets everything else. I don't know what the Jets are doing. You move on from Rodgers so that you can have a quarterback room of Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. Okay. I don't really understand what the point of what you're doing here is. I guess Brick Johnson liked the speed rating of Fields too much to pass up. It's about the only thing that really makes sense to me there. Yeah.
Second fastest player in Madden and the most acceleration out of the quarterbacks.
Make this shit up, dude.
I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me, though, is just the L's that the Cowboys and the Bengals keep taking on their playing hardball with clearly franchise guys moves. We saw this with, when Myles Garrett got his extension. Now all of a sudden, Micah Parsons, Trey Hendrickson, that's just going to cost you more. You had a chance to extend these guys well before the market got reset, and now you just keep waiting. And it's kind of in the Cowboys and Bengals both MO, where they make these guys play it out as they're tagging T. Higgins as well. They did it with Chase. They paid him top dollar when you should just be extending these guys earlier. I can say, for instance, I'm happy the Packers extended Love like early when they did, because that cap hit doesn't look so bad anymore. All these other guys are getting paid like some massive money, and it's all the Cowboys do. They made sure that they always pay top dollar for their stars by making them play these things out. And even if they aren't necessarily stars, I mean, Dak's cap hit is what, 60 mil or something around there at this point. So more L's just from the Cowboys and Bengals, who continue to just not, I guess, see the how they haven't recognized like the new NFL meta, so to speak, on how to do these contracts. Is when you have a guy, you want to sign them earlier because it just gives you more flexibility down the line, and that cap hit number is just going to look so much better for you than it will be if you make it play it out. I mean, there's a reason why Kirk Cousins ended up being one of the highest earning quarterbacks of all time, despite like never really being remotely at an MVP or like level. And it's because he was flirting enough that no one ever wanted to give him guaranteed money, but he could reset the market every single year on like 3-year deals. And that's essentially how the Cowboys and Bengals do business. And it's no wonder that they've struggled to like kind of build complete teams when you end up getting taken to the woodshed every single time by your top players.
God, remember the Zeke Elliott contract for the Cowboys? That thing was like pulling teeth. Oh my Lord.
I mean, that one and then the Dak one. I mean, those are bad deals the moment the ink was dry.
They dragged that Dak deal so long, like for years. They were talking about the deal, and you should have, absolutely. That's a great point.
Keep kicking the can down the road, and the market keeps resetting, and the market keeps boosting. Don't think you gave Kirk Cousins enough credit there for understanding the basic economic principle of inflation and knowing
because I don't think Cousins was responsible for any of this. This was teams like not believing him enough that they refused to give him long-term deals. Like, I don't think Cousins big brain this at all.
Kirk Cousins
just
PhD.
Forrest Gumping his way through
basically
short-term contracts
because he got tagged by 2 different teams, I'm pretty sure. So like, this has nothing to do with him big braining anything. He just kept like having teams just showing enough that teams wanted him.
Exact right level of above average.
Exactly the amount of excellence that is necessary to secure a 1-year deal with a 2nd-year option every time. That's oh my Lord. No, he robbed the Vikings dry. Like he fleeced the Vikings blind. But this is a great point.
Debo to the Commanders. I like that move too.
Really?
Something
that was the thing I wanted to like. They got Javon Kinlaw, they got Debo, they got a lot of very good players. I'm sorry.
They got Tunsil too, didn't they?
Laramie Tunsil. They traded for Laramie Tunsil. Commies are going crazy. Like, okay, I want your guys' call. Does this blow up in their face? Yes or no?
I don't see how it could really. I think it's good for them to keep building around. I think a lot of teams have a tendency to kind of get complacent to happy when you have someone like Jaden Daniels perform the way he did, and just assuming natural growth progression is going to take care of everything else. So we don't need to like add talent. And I like the idea of getting more vets in and building around the offense. I think it makes a ton of sense. Tunsil is a great move. You want to protect your guy as much as you can. I mean, them and the Bucks, I think, are the 2 teams I've liked what they've done the most. Bucks, I think, got Godwin on a good contract, and Hassan Reddick was, has been a good player when he chooses to play.
Yeah, I think the like they these are all nice solid pickups and not big risk. Like if one of these guys doesn't work out, it's not going to tank your team. Like it's nice solid veteran pickups. Collins, what he was saying before reminded me the real moves, that the impactful moves are the ones that haven't happened. Like Myles Garrett moving would have been huge because he's so damn good, but he ended up, it turns out it wasn't about the winning, it was about just getting a giant pile of money.
$40 million. Yeah.
And it's been sort of like pretty good players moving. Like Debo, if he works out, like if he recaptures his form, that could be huge, but he didn't look that great that last year. And DK Metcalf could be great with a good quarterback, but right now they have no one to throw the ball to him. It's sort of like, these could be good, but right now it's sort of like not all the dots are on the board to connect them and see what the final picture looks like.
Merv, does Trey Hendrickson
That's where I
move?
think.
Sorry, yeah, go
I
ahead.
think Trey Hendrickson moves. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Trey
I think so
Hendrickson
too. At this point,
the Bengals can't keep him in Higgins, I don't think.
But I don't think Hendrickson is the kind of player that like moves the needle as much as someone like Myles Garrett does. Like, or like he gets a lot of sacks, but he's not as multi-dimensional and dominant as some of these other big defensive players. Like Crosby and Garrett, who both got huge contracts, are like game changers. I think Hendrickson's a great player, but I don't think he's that kind of player.
For sure. And Murphy, you were saying something? I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was just saying, I think because we were talking about DK and stuff, I think that's where Rodgers ends up going. Rodgers and Tomlin are close. Yeah.
Yeah. Which will be an interesting spot for him.
That's not falling with the Brett Favre lineage, dude. That's not.
We're so close.
So close.
That one reporter was trying to push it this week, which
I think people
in what
forget.
way, Dan? I'm a little worried, like what you mean precisely.
There was one report. I forget his name. I can look it up. But there was one guy that was putting like Rodgers to Vikings a possibility, but there was no like, he was the only one saying it, and it got a lot of momentum on Reddit. Immediately has been debunked. Like it's Steelers and Giants.
Can you imagine Aaron Rodgers with that offense, Justin Jefferson, like TJ Hawkinson, like that is, oh my gosh.
I mean,
they might go to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, it reminds me of Favre going to the Vikings. Yeah, that was also a good team. He sort of they did well. They went far in the playoffs, and then it failed at the crucial moment, and that would probably play out similarly. But I don't think that. Yeah, I doubt that'll happen.
No, Visante Shenko. Don't get me wrong.
I just don't think it makes sense for either side, really, because like from their point of view, like they want to transition to JJ McCarthy at some point. They maybe want one more year to give him to sit, but I don't necessarily know if Rodgers wants to like kind of be rotating around the whole world, the whole US, like at this point in his career. And at the same time, Rodgers is like always maintained that he does not like the Vikings franchise. He's very bitter about them replaying the Aaron Barr broken collarbone hit on montages at the stadium and stuff. So not even just fan edits, like things that the stadium like crew has actually done. I mean, I get it for the memes, but that story never made sense.
Unfortunately for the memes, I doubt it'll happen, despite so many people wishing for it. Plus, going to Pittsburgh will work great. He'll, his dysfunction with Pickens and Metcalf, it'll be a lovely just confluence of personalities in the passing offense.
Murph, I will say that is a very underrated part of the dynamic is over under 0.5, like incidents of choking another teammate in the locker room. Like,
well, I mean, that's the thing, really, right? Is it's been for their standards, a couple quiet years of Days vs. Steelers. And I think we could really use something to kind of spice that up a little bit. I I don't know what it is about Pittsburgh that brings out some of the weirdest storylines, but yeah, this would definitely help. And
Why are all their wide receivers crazy? That's what I want to know.
yeah.
Well, it's better than the KC, which just keeps having like awful news coming out about every single one of their like skill players, apart from Kelsey, I guess. But who like Xavier Worthy now? Like we had Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice and Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt and all these guys. Just it's one after the other. So at least in Pittsburgh, the guys have their worst headlines after they leave. Tomlin sort of manages to keep them sort of focused on the task at hand enough to get good seasons out of them, and then they completely go off the rails after they go somewhere else.
Hitting both franchises, also the Le'Veon Bell news that hit today.
So I didn't even see that, but
what happened?
He is being accused by his cousin of sexual misconduct, dating back to when she was 6.
Wow, fantastic.
Oh.
He's come out already with a statement denying it entirely, but yeah, it's just news.
She got a $25 million verdict.
Yeah.
Oh, the default judgment.
Oh, I see now. Yeah.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
But that's both franchises, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Relevant to bring up at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, Le'Veon Bell's definitely been already on those lists with like players that Tomlin got good seasons out of, even at the same time as Antonio Brown, and then they both left, and it sort of all collapsed in on themselves.
That whole team was crazy. Oh my lord!
Who's the OG guy that Tomlin kept under control? Is it Plaxico with the nightclub incident?
No, that was when he was with the Giants, though.
Though.
But that's the thing, yeah. Like after they leave,
Pittsburgh,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Then shoots himself. Yeah.
Yeah, Plaxico is a good shout, just because that was like right at the beginning. They like Plaxico bridges the Cower and Tomlin eras. Yeah, can't remember any upsetting Jerome Bettis news or any of these other guys.
Well, I don't think Bettis overlapped because I think he retired.
He retired right at the end. Yeah,
with Cower.
That's true.
I think
that's
so.
true. You're right.
He retired in Detroit, his hometown.
Oh man, I mean, Rashard Mendenhall. I was like, for some reason, is like a 9/11 like conspiracy theorist apparently, and it did come out while he was on the Steelers in 2011. So that's why they're not all great. Like he had a problem with Osama dying or something like that, and I was just like.
Interesting.
So weird
stance to take. Yeah.
What the hell is in the water over there? Like, this is drinking lead paint. Like, what is going on? Like,
I mean, now in the AFC North, you almost take what you can get now. With the Browns continue to be the Browns, and now with Justin Tucker on the Ravens, like it just is a nice collection of just
moral turpitude.
Yeah.
Like.
It's weird because for so long they had like Perfect and Pac-Man, but the Bengals actually are the squeakiest clean of the whole division right now.
The worst thing to come out is that Joe Burrow got robbed, I guess. Right?
Exactly.
Like,
I was going to say the biggest story for them was crime being committed against them last year.
It's not Marvin Lewis anymore. They got a squeaky clean coach now. Oh my gosh, Marvin Lewis is one of the. That's a segment we got to do. Is like biggest babysitters. Like who are the best babysitter coaches? Like Marvin Lewis has to be up there. Like he is.
I mean, Tomlin's goated.
Yeah, I was gonna say who we're just talking about.
We'll name the list after him. The Tomlin Coach Babysitter Award. Like, the Mike Tomlin Coach Babysitter of the Year. Oh my gosh.
Whoever got was it Adelman that got the Jailblazers to the Western Conference Finals?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, and then he came back. He had his tour with the Kings.
Oh, Adelman?
It was.
He was the Kings coach.
Yeah, he was the Kings coach. I'm trying to.
Yeah. No, it can't be.
No, he went to the Kings in
Dunleavy.
Dunleavy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, there's no way he jumped Blazers to Kings.
No.
That would have been crazy.
Yeah.
Dunleavy Senior, dude.
25 years ago.
Jailblazers is a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a
I
good
mean,
one.
Yeah, they were
I
successful.
think Damon Stoudemire was on that team. Rasheed
was
Wallace was
a-
on that team.
It was a chaotic team.
Scottie Pippen. Like, how
Ruben
did they not kill each
Pattinson.
other?
Ruben Patterson. Sorry.
Ruben
Not the
Pa-
Twilight.
the Kobe
not
Kobe
the Twilight
stopper.
guy.
Kobe stopper. Kobe stopper. Kobe stopper.
Steve Kerr. Yeah.
Oh my God, Steve Kerr. He's probably like, why am I here?
Well, no. What's it
What is
called?
going
Joe Blazers never broke the code.
Yeah, I was gonna say after the game, I didn't see it. I just
Exactly.
yeah.
He's still looking for the video.
Well,
He's trying to educate himself on the topic.
Steve Kerr is as down as it gets, man. He's 10 toes down. We need that. We need that stuff. We need to do research on that segment. Who is the all-time? Who's the Mike Tomlin? Maybe it's every year. Like, who was it for last year? Who was the Mike Tomlin coach babysitter of the year? But it can't be Mike Tomlin. Let's think about this a little bit.
I go Andy Reid because the Chiefs have been having
Ooh,
pretty
yeah.
chaotic off seasons, and they just keep making Super Bowls.
That's spicy. That's spicy.
Because you had Rashee Rice, you had the Butker stuff that happened. Obviously, Kelsey with Taylor Swift isn't necessarily a scandal, but it's like
it's
publicity type
it's
thing
a
that brings
media circus.
distraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the whole Mahomes family backing Trump during an election year thing, which has got to be polarizing in a locker room. I'm missing some. There's some other off the field stuff that happened to some of the players too.
But yeah, that's an excellent pick. I think it'll be hard to top that just because they were the center of attention nonstop all season and they still made it to the Super Bowl. And we're looking really good until that last game.
The wheels fell off, man. What can I say?
The wheels that he had been holding together with, chewing gum
Duct
and
tape
a couple of spare Post-its.
Damn. I think in the MLB, I would take Aaron Boone. And just because, that's a lot of personalities. Like, they got JCJ mid-season. Okay, that is... And for him to just start killing it all of a sudden, it's like, wow, okay, let's go, Booney. And yeah, that team had every indicator of this thing's going to implode. And then it just didn't until it mattered most. But they got pretty
Similar
far.
to the...
Yeah, just you know what it is? It's like they're holding it up, just trying their best not to let the dam to break. They're just oh, they're shaking and just oh my god, just one more inning, guys. And then it just explodes. But they had some douchebags on that team. Alex Verdugo was on that team. Whew, that's some personalities in that clubhouse. And you got Alex Verdugo dancing to Ice Cube in the dugout. What? The Dodgers in the World Series. It's bro. His teammates are kind of looking at him what are you doing? Yeah, we got to figure out who this is because I agree that Mike Dunleavy Sr. has to be an all-time babysitter coach. But Marvin Lewis, that's another guy we should have named it after. But he wasn't as successful. He
wasn't
made the playoffs, but
yeah, the Ocho Cinco years were definitely colorful. Yeah, that's a good one for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, that's NFL offseason. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about NCAA March Madness. It's conference tournament week. The real conference tournaments now, I think. Sorry, everybody else. What game were we talking about yesterday? Furman versus Wofford.
Oh yeah,
it's that kind of time of year. But we're gonna get to real conference tournaments soon, and of course, Selection Sunday is this Sunday, as Murph so kindly reminded me before we went live. So we'll be talking a little bit more college basketball when we get back. All right, Murph.
I need a actual quick break. 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, Murph. What were you thinking as far as second?
I was thinking maybe look through potential bid thieves, maybe interesting bubble matchups, and teams that hadn't made the tournament before. Those kind of be the three that I was looking at, but I can kind of do anything. I have all the brackets in front of me.
Okay. And how many brackets are you doing?
What do you mean? I have every conference bracket that's ongoing.
No. How many March Madness bracket competitions are you in?
Oh, I mean, I haven't set any of them up yet, but I'll probably
Okay.
do my standard 3. Alaska
Okay.
College, and then the third.
Would you be open to opening that up?
Yeah.
Okay. The third one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we do something like that where the three of us compete and the winner does something, loser does something.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Which reminds me, I need to get that Ichiro jersey.
Yeah. Look at you.
THGate. Okay, cool. Because I think a bracket competition would be fun, and then we got to do MLB preseason divisional predictions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because we're coming up on it too. So. It's getting good, boys. It's getting good.
Hello.
All right, Dan. I was just saying, we might do a March Madness bracket together.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And so Murph's gonna kind of take this one. Yeah. Okay. So Murph's gonna do kind of like bid thieves, like Selection Sunday, looking forward, conference tournament stuff. Just kind of leave it to him.
Yep.
All right.
Sounds good.
And we're back. Of course, we have our resident college basketball expert, Colin Murphy. He was a commentator for the Caltech men's basketball team. Prior to that, he was a captain of the Caltech men's basketball team for 3 seasons. 3 seasons, right? Sophomore, junior, senior.
Yeah. I also coached for a couple years after.
Was also coach.
Yep.
Are you comfortable telling the Brad Stevens story on air? Like you got gypped out of the.
I wouldn't use that term.
Okay, all right.
No. Yeah, there was a brief thing set up where I had conversations working, potentially doing a grad assistant position in Purdue with Matt Painter, Coach Painter. That basically what came out of it was when Brad Stevens got hired by the Celtics, he took with him the defensive coordinator for Purdue at the time, who was the one I had been in contact with. I am spacing on his name top of my head. And anyways, the position got closed. So I didn't end up going out there to Purdue, which is why sometimes they jokingly call them Purdon't. It's kind of a fake outrage over not getting that position, but honestly, not really too concerned about it. But yes, somehow Brad Stevens accepting the Celtics job did potentially affect my life.
we wouldn't have known each other if he didn't take that job.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about.
Also, probably would have broken up with my now wife. So,
Oh, fuck.
a lot of falling
Wait a-
things.
A lot of dominoes.
Let's not touch this, actually. Let's go back and delete that whole segment. Butterfly effect bullshit going on here. But yeah,
It's not like she's not aware of that. We talked about it, but like at the time.
So Brad Stevens is the reason for this podcast existing.
Brad
as well.
Stevens is part of the reason why this podcast exists.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's
Pulling strings left and right.
like literally we would not have Colin if not for Brad Stevens.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have a lot of things if not for Brad Stevens. Including
To be
Baller
fair,
TV
there was never
would
like an
not exist.
official job offer, but there was kind of an understanding that there was going to be something. So
Just so we're clear, Colin recruited like practically all the engineers that came to Baller TV. So like if he had gone to that stupid coaching job, like that company would not exist without Colin. Like it just doesn't. It would not have started. So
probably not.
yeah. What do you mean probably not? It freaking would not have. Like what? Yeah, crazy story. Thank you, Brad Stevens. But Colin, of course, very knowledgeable about college basketball. He is thinking about when I say we were talking about the Wofford Terriers and the Furman Paladins yesterday. We're not kidding. Like that, we were actually thinking about that yesterday. So, what ended up happening in that game? First of all, did PJ actually? Which, by the way, he spells his name PJAY.
Yeah.
That's an effrontery to names.
Like PJ started shooting twos. At the point when I kind of was texting them, at one point he was 4 for 4, had 21 points, and had been fouled on 3 3-pointers. 21 points. James Harden 4 shots.
Classic PJ.
But he started taking twos, and poor Furman just couldn't handle that. And Wofford ended up winning it. Wofford shot extremely well from 3. I believe they hit 15 threes at 50%.
Jesus.
So
Dancing
it was quite the game. Both teams shot it really well from deep, though. It was. I think I was texting you guys during it. The two teams combined were in the mid-20s at like 47% between the two of them, heading into like the final stretch of the game. I think some of the forced threes by Furman definitely lowered their overall numbers, but when the game was competitive, it was an absolute like shooting fest. It's quite a fun game for the Southern Conference.
But you got some stuff that we should be looking out for. You know, that's how deep you're looking into these games, but also you're kind of in the weeds with potential bid thieves, right? Like where are the bid thieves this year? Are they all in the Big Ten? Like, are they all? Is the Big Ten like ship full steam ahead, or like what's going on?
So yeah, actually, I mean, the first week was a very, very good week for the bubble. I think all the big schools are gonna be very happy with what happened. Drake winning the Missouri Valley was nice. Gonzaga and St. Mary's making the championship game for the West Coast Conference. That final is tonight. That's great. Both those teams are already in. University of San Francisco probably lost it when they lost to Gonzaga. They needed that win. I think they could have had an at-large by losing to St. Mary's in the final, but I think most prognosticators have San Francisco out. So that's a big win for everyone else. So no bid thieves so far. So the bubble's it's been a weak bubble, but the bubble's staying stronger than it's been, at least because of that. I think things to look out for. ACC, I don't really think there's a realistic bid thief out here. The big one is going to be assuming UNC beats Notre Dame, UNC versus Wake Forest is essentially an elimination game. The winner of that game is going to play Duke. They beat Duke. Whoever wins that game, if they happen to beat Duke, they're probably in the tournament. But if they lose to Duke, they're probably out. But either way, whoever loses that UNC Wake Forest game is certainly out of the tournament. So if you're a fan on the bubble, you want Notre Dame to win, or just the easiest path is just hope that Duke wins. But the ACC is not too interesting, bid thief wise. The Big 12, not really interesting either. Maybe you probably want Baylor to lose early, but that's about it. Big 10 has, a couple big games right here. Indiana, Oregon is going to be a massive one. Indiana needs to win. And then Ohio State has found themselves in the bubble. They get to play Iowa in the first round. That's not going to do a whole lot for their resume. They probably have to beat Illinois to feel good about what they're doing in the second round. So that's something to keep luck in the Big 10. The Big East, I think it's all eyes on Xavier. Xavier is red hot right now. If they beat Marquette, they're probably safely in, but this is a team that can make a run. I think they're on a 7-game win streak right now, and they've knocked out some really good Big East teams to get there. The SEC actually has a very feisty opening round of matchups where you have Arkansas in a must-win game against South Carolina if Calipari wants to make the tournament in his first year out of Kentucky. Georgia, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt, Texas. Those are both matchups between 4 teams that are all on the bubble to varying degrees. Oklahoma and Texas need wins to keep their bubble hopes alive. Georgia and Vandy could probably survive a loss, but probably won't feel too great about it. So the SEC opening round tomorrow is going to be very, very interesting for that reason. But I think the thing that's going to affect the bubble the most is the Mountain West. New Mexico's in the tournament for sure. Everyone kind of agrees with that. But there's a solid chance for a bid thief there. It's not like New Mexico walked the conference or anything, and they're guaranteed to win. The Mountain West could have as many as 5 teams make it. Utah State just needs to beat UNLV. Should be pretty easy ask for them. Colorado State, they win a couple games. They're definitely frisky, but Boise State, San Diego State, 2 teams on the bubble. They're playing each other. One's the first team out. The other is the last 4 in. I think on the last time I looked at Lenardi. So that's how close to the bubble those 2 teams are. Wouldn't necessarily say it's an elimination game, but Boise State needs to win it. San Diego State could probably afford to lose it because they have other wins, but Boise State needs that win. Outside of that, the last real big thieves happen. The American, you need Memphis to win out. Memphis is getting in the tournament, whether they win or lose. So anyone but Memphis winning, and that's a bid thief situation. Atlantic 10, VCU and Dayton, no guaranteed either of them getting at large, but I think you probably just want them to win if you're on the bubble and just make it simple. But I think what's also feisty is we could be looking at a 2-team Big West. The Big West has University of California, San Diego, the Tritons, and UC Irvine. They are both in the hunt. UC Irvine is one of the, I think, next 4 out right now on Lenardi. UC San Diego is the one who won the conference. They probably have a little more latitude. If you end up with a championship game of UCSD and UCI, and UCSD loses it, we could very much be looking at a 2-team Big West. And that could be a very, very interesting situation because the Big West is not a conference that gets 2 teams to the tournament very often. That would be really exciting, I think. And the Big West is one of those conferences that tries to protect their top teams. Both those 2 teams have buys to the semifinal. So a lot easier for them to make that run than it is for some of those other conferences. So I think those are kind of the bid thieves that we're going to be looking at here for this week.
Very cool. And UCSD, of course, with the they had 39 votes in the last AP poll. They were outside the top 25, but that's like a not that I keep up with like UC athletics as a USC grad. I don't really whatever these schools are doing.
I mean, the only college basketball player that I truly care about this year lost this past weekend, Juju Watkins. I was speaking of UC athletics. I'm a little bummed about that, but it's good to have the extra motivation going into the tournament.
Yeah, I'd rather that. We'll get you back. In the real.
I mean, UCSD also, I should point out, they've never made the NCAA tournament.
Oh, they're definitely going to make it this year, I feel like. Yeah.
I mean, if they lose in the semis, that could be tough. Because every loss that isn't to UCI is going to be a pretty bad loss for an at-large resume. The mid to the bottom of the Big West is not good.
I see.
So that's going to be a problem. Youngstown State right now is up 1 in the Horizon League final. They've never made the NCAA tournament. So that's something that could be interesting. And the Metro Athletic Conference, top 2 seeds, Quinnipiac and Merrimack, both have never made the tournament. So we have a couple other teams that can maybe join: Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, High Point, and Omaha, all 3 of which last week, punched their ticket to their first ever NCAA tournament. So that's really, it's always cool to see. Something I always root for. Maine is the next one I'm kind of looking for, who just won their first conference tournament game in 20 years, which I don't know how you do that, go that long without winning a conference tournament game, but they've never made it.
And I think Cooper Flag should have gone there after all.
I know,
right?
Man.
Dude, betraying the cause. And then the last thing I think I'm really looking forward to here is it's actually Delaware was down 3 right now to UNC Wilmington the first half. Delaware, miserable team this year. They won 5 games in conference, but they've won 4 games in 4 days, and now they're in the championship. They could match their conference win total in their tournament and punch their ticket to the dance here tonight. Just that's such a weird situation.
This system is such a farce sometimes.
I'm rooting for that. That is guaranteed a play-in 16 seed if they make in. That is going to be the dead last team in the tournament if they manage to pull this off. But whether are they the fighting Blue Hens, alma mater of Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco, yeah.
Oh yeah, I love all color foul like teams. Like Blue Hens is really good. Any foul related teams. So like the Chanticleers, huge fan. Like I love those mascots. Like huge fan of any bird, but especially foul. Like especially birds you can eat. Okay. Like also I screw with those too. So
Chanticleers and Paladins is a nice like French lore subsection as well.
It's a lot of that.
No,
I love.
You guys are big LaSalle Explorers fans as well. Also, I would point this out for you, Grievous. You might, you would not appreciate this, but the matchup is what I would consider a fashion faux pas.
Okay.
You have Delaware in teal. Oh, sorry. You have UNC Wilmington in teal jerseys and Delaware in royal blue.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
It's actually kind of tough to tell them apart on the TV. To be completely honest.
I mean, that sounds it reminds me of the game that was complaining in the group chat earlier in the week with the Cavs wearing Carolina blue at home on their blue court. And just a complete muddle.
An
Yeah.
But
absolute
yeah, on a
eyesore.
college level, disappointing because they've generally been better about that.
I don't know
I honestly
whose
didn't think-
genius idea was to do that.
Same. I didn't think it was even legal because like the colors are very close in my opinion. Like I know there's rules on light versus dark, but I would have made an exception on this one. But that's just not okay.
I got such a headache. Well, thank you for this update, Colin. I wanted to talk about us potentially doing a bracket. So I think next week after Selection Sunday, we should have a bracket handy, ready
Okay.
to kind of go over. So next week, prepare for the bracket, and then we're gonna do an off-topic bracket, non-basketball bracket, non-NCAA men's basketball bracket, and we'll kind of discuss a little bit more. But like, should we do like NBA head cases bracket, like A+ on the group project bracket? You know, like which players were like the most like the Juwan Howard and Jeff Teagues, and like, you know, like, hey, you won a championship, but like you really, you know,
I see the
A+ on the group project bracket. Yeah, let's just think about something. But I think we should have a fun bracket.
Juwan Howard was solid. He wasn't
he was
useless.
non-existent.
He wasn't Mario Chalmers.
What? Chalmers was way more useful.
Chalmers is way more important. I literally remember
Didn't
Dwayne
Chalmers
Wade
hit a
going to
game winner versus the
Mario
Thunder?
mother effing Chalmers. Like, I was like, yeah.
I mean,
didn't Chalmers hit a game winner against the
Yeah.
Thunder?
I mean, sure, but the only reason they had the opportunity for a game, like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like guys like him or Paxton or like these role players that make big shots in finals games, like good job doing it when the opportunity comes. But yeah, I guess for this category it makes sense.
I mean,
Dan,
to me, you're comparing him to Juwan Howard. Like Chalmers started.
Yeah, Juwan Howard did like barely played. Like there
Chalmers,
wasn't enough garbage time for Juwan Howard to play.
yeah, Chalmers.
We're
was
talking
starting
about
point
late
guard.
career Juwan. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
We're not talking about, you know, we're not talking about bullets, Juwan Howard.
Yeah.
okay? Like,
Like,
who was actually really good.
Then
No,
yes,
'cause-
of course.
'cause we're talking
Yeah.
about competing for titles.
We're talking
like
about like
Washington
end of
basketball.
roster guys.
Yeah, like
then.
on the
Okay.
on that team, like Juwan Howard was the group project guy. You know, like
Yeah. Heard. Okay, I understand now.
my bad. No, yeah, Juwan Howard. Yeah, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
Juwan Howard
is
at
nice
his
with the
peak
ball,
is just
yeah.
was an actual good player, like an actual
He's
like
an all-star.
yeah.
Yeah. So
But yes,
Okay.
I see I see the concept now.
damn, I still, you know, I was like kind of a Bullets fan for a little bit because Juwan Howard, Chris Webber, I was like, damn, that's a team. I realized like, it didn't work out.
Missing Jalen Rose and
Well, I think they were beefing by then, right?
oh yeah,
Like Jalen and Chris were beefing by then. So okay. Well, we'll be back with so we're gonna talk about the bracket next week and we're gonna go over it. Colin's bracket obviously is probably gonna be the only one that people are gonna want on here. Because you know
I'm gonna use a very scientific method to select.
I'm just gonna
all.
use Ken Palm. Because that always works. It works every time.
The strategy I usually use is who would win in a fight between the two mascots.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll come up with something more creative than Ken Palm then. When you get back, we're going to do matchups we're looking forward to, gratitude and rants. All right. So stick with us. And thanks again, Colin. All right. And we're back. Gratitude rants, matchups we're looking forward to. Dan, why don't you kick us off?
Matchups, I couldn't find that much that I was super excited about. Continuing with our Lakers run, now with LeBron hurt for a couple weeks, it's less exciting, but they're playing the Nuggets again. It'll be interesting to see how we play against Jokic once again, which isn't as LeBron reliant. And yeah, the Doncic Jokic matchup continues to be fun, and Doncic has been putting up numbers. It'll be nice to see the team face a challenge like that, but especially without LeBron. Yeah, but nothing that really stood out to me. There's Champions League tomorrow, which I'm excited about. And Arsenal, but again, like Arsenal won 7-1 in the first leg, so it'll be difficult to see PSV making that up against them. I am thankful for a couple of Dallas area related things. First, the Mavericks curse continuing to be alive and well. and spilling over into medieval times. I don't know if y'all saw that that the Fire Nico chants made it to medieval times in Dallas, which is actually surprisingly close to the stadium. They were chanting in the middle of the jousting, and then
Green Knight and Fire Nico Harrison.
And yeah, on the court they continue to get hurt. They're down to 7 healthy players by the end of the previous game, but players are out there like headbutting into each other, and like it's Looney Tunes level stuff, and the basketball gods are really underlining that point. But even more fun is the MLB released this new series of caps that has the team name and then the logo on top, which by itself is already a very poor design decision. Like none of the caps look good, but some of the caps, because a lot of team logos are based on letters, formed new and fun words that the MLB clearly did not try to, did not proofread. This one, the Texas Rangers, when they put their logo, which is just the letter T, over Texas, it formed a pretty vulgar word in Spanish, which, apologies to our Spanish language viewers, but to our listeners is tetas. And yes, unfortunately got pulled from the website, so only 29 of the caps are available. But as I sent you all the text, it makes a great compliment and collector's piece, along with the Oakland A's ass hat that happened a couple seasons ago, and really just fits the theme for that division, which still, if you put all the logos together in the right order, spell out the word ass hat. These little bits of baseball fun are especially important now that we're still mourning the loss of the poop game between the Pirates and the Phillies because of the change in the score bug. Rants. Once again, I would like to rant about Draymond Green, and he is the gift that keeps on giving. This week he circulated a story about Karl Anthony Towns missing a game to avoid Jimmy Butler, even though like he has played Jimmy Butler and played well against Jimmy Butler's teams recently, and then it came out that the real reason that Karl Anthony Towns was missing that game was for a funeral of I think it was a close family member of his wife or something like that. I don't remember. I forget exactly, but it was a funeral for someone very close to him. And they brought that up to Draymond Green in a press conference, and Draymond his response was just completely dismissive and completely very on par for the complete lack of empathy that Draymond Green sort of brings to everything he does on and off the court, and it continues to be just a mind-boggling to have this guy continue to be pushed on us as one of the new faces of like talking heads in the league. Like, he is profoundly unlikable, and it is one of the worst choices possible, and yet he is front and center.
Yeah, he said something like, I know, that's still what I heard, or something, after it had been refuted in front of him.
He's like,
he couldn't even apologize at that point.
I didn't say this happened. I said, I heard this happened. And the Draymond Green and Baron Davis show must go on as the top priority. Annoying. Forever annoying.
Some background to what Dan was talking about. So Karl Anthony Towns missed a game after a family friend actually passed away of breast cancer. And the quote from the New York Post, which yuck, but it's from the New York Post, but it is from Kat, was that he said, death of a family friend, Sarah Holtzman. This is one of the moments where I had to be there for my family and be there for the kids that lost somebody really special to them. Towns said after rejoining the Knicks in LA, where he returned Thursday against the Lakers in a 113-109 overtime loss. Just really tragic story, and kind of sucks. And so, I am known for casting aspersions Cat's way a lot of times and making fun of him. This is not one of those times. I thought it was actually quite noble of him. especially bringing up the kids, and it really puts things in perspective for you. So Cat has lost a lot of family members, and a lot of people
In the
close
last few
to him over
years.
the years. Yeah, over the past few
Yeah.
years. So as much as I like to joke about him and his voice and how he needs autotune, he is actually one of the more resilient athletes I've seen, just like having to deal with all the tragedy that's been around him. So big ups to Cat. As much as I make fun of you, I respect him a lot. And so yeah, shout out Cat. That sucks, dude. And Drake, I mean, did we expect anything different, really?
No, but he continues to he's
That's the messed up part.
It reminds me of this one How I Met Your Mother episode where Barney tricks Ted into thinking he's going on a date with an escort, and so Ted treats her as such, ends up getting slapped at the end.
Mhm.
And Lily turns to the end. It's like, for anyone else, Barney, I'd say this is a new low, but sadly for you, it's a new middle. And that's how I feel about this.
Yeah, it's not surprising. It's just annoying that it keeps happening, and he still continues to be front and center for so many parts of the NBA coverage.
Yeah, we're getting too much Draymond. It's Draymond overexposure. There's a player who deserves it more, like Jeff Teague.
Oh yeah, Jeff Teague would be great.
My favorite basketball podcaster ever.
Especially now that we sadly don't have Podcast P producing any episodes for a while.
Don't
because
need that show to come back.
He's focusing on basketball. He's
okay, whatever.
He's decided to turn the Sixers around.
We all know what the real reason is, that they know where you record and you would be stabbed. The Philadelphia is not happy with Paul George right now. Like, that guy is a persona non grata. I can't think of a less Philly player right now. Okay. Murph, your match to be looking forward to. Gratitude rants.
Well, first, I just want to also throw out, I do think the Diamondbacks one actually came out pretty well and has sold a little bit because it says Ariana. And so people are buying it for their girlfriends, wives,
Nice.
daughters, nieces, stuff like that. So
The Dodgers ones kind of spells out dollars, which is funny.
yeah,
Dollars.
like a butchered, yeah.
Dollars. Yeah.
That's how Gringo would say it. You
Yeah.
know? I have many dollars. It's like in Mexico City.
It's messed up, dude. I try my best. Just no habla español.
So yeah, Mountain. The matchup I'm most looking forward to. I kind of hit most of them. I'm all about college basketball this week. SEC first round, ACC UNC Wake elimination game, Indiana Oregon, Mountain West drama. If I had to pick one thing, I guess I'd say the Madrid derby tomorrow, Atletico versus Real. That should be a very good game in the morning. Good way to break up the workday. Check that one out. It's only one. I think Atletico trails by 1, and they host it. So should be a very, very good game between two teams that could certainly threaten to win it all.
Yeah, but it's Real against Atletico in the Champions League. Like, it's preordained.
I mean, Real do have plot armor. Yeah. It's sickening.
Something will happen. It doesn't matter.
But it's sometimes fun to watch what new creative way the script
Just the
writers
rug pull.
have them win. Yeah. Like, they're going to win.
3 goals in stoppage time. We've done that already.
Yeah, that was I saw that matchup, and like on paper it's good, but like I already know how that's gonna end. So there's no
It's funny because if it's in La Liga, you're like, this Atletico can actually win it. But
I've done that matchup in the Liga before for this podcast, I think. But then in Champions League, I'm like, nah, I know. Like, come on, this is the second leg.
But yeah, outside college basketball, that's about the only other thing I'm really paying attention to this week. But all college basketball. My rant, I guess I'll go negative and end sweet. Then my rant is I don't understand why ESPN is showing in some of these other cable sports things they're horrible debate shows instead of broadcasting all the conference championship games. There's no reason that these shouldn't all be broadcast and we shouldn't have 24-hour coverage of some of these tournaments. I mean, I was not able to watch Colorado TCU this morning. Like, yes, neither of those teams are going anywhere, but it would have been nice to have the option to watch that. You're going to talk about championship week. I think you should embrace it. And I want to see more. I want to see more college basketball this week. grateful. I'm gonna talk about my fellow Skyac opponents, Redlands. They're in the Sweet 16. They knocked off number 9 Tufts, and they find themselves with a date against the number 7 team in the country, Hamden Sydney. It's going to take place in New York City this weekend. And then if they win that, they have a berth to the Final Four with most likely the number 2 team in the country, New York University. So Redlands, it's got a tough path for them, but you're in the Sweet 16. There's not really an easy one to go through at this point. They're representing the Sky crowd. The other 2 teams, not so much, as Hampton Sydney, I believe, eliminated Cal Lutheran, and Claremont lost their first game as well. So Redlands is all that's left. And they've been, which on paper should be a pretty even matchup. Number 11 team in the country versus number 7.
Very nice.
I honestly can't remember the last time a Sky. I don't think a Sky team has made the Elite 8 since I've been following D3 basketball. Claremont Mudscripts made the Sweet 16, I believe, one year, but I don't think anyone's ever made the Elite 8.
It's wild to think of NYU as number 2 in basketball.
I was thinking that.
Anything.
Yeah. I almost went there. That was
Thank God you didn't.
That was the one other option. I applied to like 4 schools.
You mean for undergrad?
Yeah.
Thank freaking Christ, dude.
I mean, the film school's really good, so that was I applied there too.
I can count on one hand the number of NYU grads I actually like, and I've met a lot of them. All right, like I can count them on one hand, and like 80% of them are Thai. Like it's like. Okay, real quick. Matchup I'm most looking forward to. Oh, this is where I get to kind of resubject you guys to combat sports and WWE. WWE, we've got Monday Night Raw coming to us from Belgium on Monday. So that's something I'm looking forward to. It is the road to WrestleMania. This is the most exciting time of the year for following professional wrestling, or sports entertainment, as they like to term it. The Europe crowds are freaking awesome. So if there was ever a time that I would like tell my friends to watch WWE on TV, it would be like when they're in Europe, because those crowds get it like once a year, and like it's not easy to travel. And so those crowds get absolutely lit, and it is so loud. The chants are electric. Like that's why you watch that stuff. So that's probably my favorite part of WWE. Can't wait to see how Belgium, and I believe Scotland is the week after, which is like, oh my gosh, they go crazy out there. So very excited. Gratitude. Shohei Ohtani hit a double, 118.5 miles per hour off the bat. That I'm very grateful for. Ohtani, as you guys know, in the World Series, tore his labrum. Was initially termed a subluxation, was not actually that. He needed to get arthroscopic surgery to repair it and so my gratitude is actually to Dr. Neil Elatrash, who performed the surgery. I want to give him the credit and the shout out, but Shohei hit a ball 118 miles an hour. All is right with the world. Glad the bat speed did not suffer. He's back to being himself. So I'm just very glad for that. My rant. All right. This Jokic SGA MVP debate is pissing me off. Like, all right, guys. I know he's killing it this year. Okay, Jokic is like Russell Westbrook on crack. All right, like he has the counting numbers for days. He's got efficiency numbers that are eye-watering, like absolutely eye-watering. I still think it's SGA's MVP to win this year. I think a lot of that has to do with his team is successful, but it's something that's not captured in the stats usually is SGA plays both sides of the ball, and he's very important to that other side of the ball, and he's a very important reason why this team is winning. And so I look at what the thing I reference when it comes to MVP debates is usually the Basketball Reference win shares, because I think that tends to be directionally like what people look at. SGA and Jokic are neck and neck. Like when it comes to win shares, they're like a tenth away from each other. So I think it is SGA's to win. I know people are outraged about Jokic, but I think it's a kind of an indictment on basketball punditry as a whole, that we're still relying on stats and numbers and things like that. And we don't tend to like think about how poorly, this is my real rant, how poorly quantified defensive performance is in basketball. Like it is, there are no reliable stats because of defense. Like also they have steals and blocks, but it's like, yeah, but you were out of position and you had to steal it, or like you were out of position and that's why you got the block, right? Or like it's just there's so much circumstantial evidence. There's no cold hard like that's why you're good at defense stat. The way there is for offense. Like offense is so well documented. Everything is like you know what you're getting with these stats, and Jokic's ability is well documented as well as a result of that. I think defense kind of gets the short shrift, and I think it is important. There are two buckets. There's the one you got to score in. There's one you got to prevent from scoring in. So I'm very pro. Please fix defensive stats. Come up with some good ones so that we can have better debates. Because right now, yeah, of course, Jokic is crushing SGA in every counting stat and all that. So yeah, that's my rant.
I feel like this could have been a whole segment because I am very pro Jokic in this debate.
Well, fuck you, Dan. Like,
I actually kind of agreed with what I believe Coach Malone said, where he kind of mentioned if you take away his previous MVPs, we wouldn't really even be discussing this. I do think a lot of this is just voter fatigue.
Yes, I agree.
100%. But it's also
honestly,
like
I do think it's ridiculous because I think the NBA is like the only sport where MVPs are like decided on narrative basis to like this strong, like to this strong of a level. Like I've never had as much beef with like NFL or MLB. MLB's cleaned it up a lot recently, but
MLB is basically like a done deal. Like you can literally track the MVP race in real time. You just open up Baseball Reference, go to the wins above replacement section, unfurl it, and that's your MVP race. Like,
but yeah, like I just feel like the NBA just way too hand wavy with how they choose to do it, and then like you know it's very likely I think that Embiid won his one because Kendrick Perkins made it a race thing. Like just so many ridiculous things that like you see flip the betting odds. I'm not even kidding though, because like you could see when the betting odds start to flip and the narrative start to change on these things.
You're right.
And it's a lot of it has to do when things pop up that have nothing to do with basketball, and it's kind of ridiculous that these things impact the race that you just don't see in other sports.
Nikola Jokic is an insane basketball player and doing things that we have never seen before. Like literally this week, he had a 30-20-20 game, which has never happened, at least since we've been tracking, because Will Chamberlain almost certainly did that at some point. But in the modern stat era, he's doing stuff that we've never seen before, and he's so central to that team's success, and he's sort of keeping them afloat single-handedly as not just afloat, but as contenders. Like they're hovering around the 2-3 seed in the West position, and without him they would probably not make the playoffs. Like they would struggle to make the playoffs. And the argument of like if you switch them, like he would probably make Oklahoma City better, and SGA would probably make the Nuggets worse. Like I get it. I get the defensive argument, but at the same time, SGA isn't the defensive focus on Oklahoma. Like they have Lou Dort and Alex Caruso and Chet Holmgren in the middle, who's a nice rim protector, and yeah, like that's it. Like Jokic is just it's just a historically great player in my view, and quite possibly having his best season, which is really saying something with the kind of seasons that he's already had. So yeah, I think he should be MVP. But yeah, I understand. I mean, SGA is great. I really like SGA as a player, but I just think he's not as good as Jokic this year, and Jokic has had the season that he deserves another MVP.
I'm with you guys on the narrative hand wave. I think it legit is like what makes this discussion possible. I think MVP, like if you guys remember how we talked about the MLB MVP, it was like a foregone conclusion. And Murph was like, if Ketel Marte hadn't missed X amount of games, it could have gotten a little spicy. But like it is very like trackable. But in the NBA, like I feel like it's by design. It's narrative based by design to get people talking. And what I would wanted it probably like big brain version of this rant was really about, okay, I get the counting stat argument. I get the Jokic offense like never been seen before type argument. And we could go back and measure this out for tons of MVPs, like the Westbrook year that we talk about a lot, and Even the Kawhi should have won one of those. You know, like I had a big like Kawhi thing when he was with the Spurs and he had his breakout season. And so like we have these, but like there needs to be like a better discussion. Like maybe I want it to be more objective and numbers based, but it can't because it's not, you know, it is really like kind of based on offensive numbers and it's based on one side of the court. Now, Jokic is so overwhelmingly good on this side of the court. Like historically, literally, as Dan said, there has been nobody like him, like on this side of the court. And yeah, of course, if you switch Jokic for, even if you trade Chet Holmgren plus SGA for Jokic, I would argue that that team is better. You know, like that is literally what we're looking at here. Like he would turn Lou Dort into like a good shooter. That's how good his passing is. Like, and so that's kind of like, I'm with you guys, but at the same time, like how we talk about this, like the reason why it is this way is because the stats are not as conclusive. It's not, and I think the NBA likes it kind of murky. They want it this way so that people talk about it like this. But my thing for Jokic supporters is like make good cases like Dan and Murph just did, and not just like, well, he has this many rebounds and this many assists. And I'm just like, if I fucking have to hear this shit one more time, like that's literally how Russell Westbrook won it. Like, like
yeah.
But
yeah, true.
I agree. He deserves it, and in a vacuum, he would get it. But
just as a little addendum here, Lou Dort is averaging 39.8% from 3 points.
I never thought I'd see the day. The Lou Dort sag was a legitimate strategy. Like you would actually run that as part of your defensive strategy. It's like you can sag off Lou Dort like 12 feet because he's not going to shoot it.
He's shooting the ball this year. I mean that's a hell of a team, Oklahoma.
Yeah, no,
shout out Lou Dort.
They look great.
That whole team is I don't think anyone's. I think they're going straight to the finals.
Murph, when I saw that kid in high school, he was just dunking. Like he was like didn't know anything about basketball. He kind of looked like Hachimura, like at Gonzaga, but like even more raw, where he was just like dunking and rebounding. That's all he knew how to do. And then now it's like you're 40% from 3. What the hell? Like that's all work, dude. Shout out to the work that you have to put in to get to that level, because that did not come natural to him. I literally watched him in high school. And
shout out to the work, but also shout out to the power of a good nickname. The Dorcher Chamber is one of the best player nicknames in the league, and I fully believe that now that it's established, it has elevated him as a player.
I'm so happy for this guy. He barely spoke English when he came here, dog. Like this guy's awesome now. That's awesome. I'm so glad. Oh, yeah. But no, I'm not kidding when I say you could trade Chet Holmgren plus SGA for Jokic, and the Thunder would be a better team right now, like 100%. Because
Jokic is just he's like a Dyson sphere around a supernova type. Like he's just other levels of like the sort of jubilation that we had with Luka. Like as good as Luka is, like Jokic is everything Luka is, but like even turned up even.
He's bigger.
Yes, but like Luka should Jokic shoots the ball like this. Like we talked about it before. He shoots the ball like some bullshit shot, like falling out of bounds, and you're like, oh yeah, that's going in. Like you're surprised. He's just like touched by the basketball gods. Like everything he does like works somehow.
I love that. And I love that that's the style that like we have to, like it's driving people crazy.
Yeah.
Like the same, like there is a Nico Harrison school of basketball that thinks that like the more athletic and the more like committed to your health and nutrition you are, like the better a basketball, that translate directly one to one to a better basketball player.
Yeah.
You know, and no, two of the best basketball players are kind of pudgy. Yeah. You know, like they move a little slow. You know, like they're quick, they're agile when they have to be.
Oh yeah,
they're kind of plodding, and
they're athletes for sure. Like they're not fat. They're just they've accumulated mass and use it well.
A little thick, you know.
Yeah.
But oh my god, it just flies in the face of everything we've been taught. You know, I think that's the thing that pisses people off. It flies in the face of everything we've been taught about what makes a good athlete. And the athletic requirements to play basketball. It is definitely more of a brain game than it is a body game right now. Like You just don't have that brain. Like the people who have the brain are like LeBron, Luka, Jokic. Like
flies in the face of what Nico Harrison was taught, certainly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
From lived experience, because apparently he lived it with.
Oh yeah, no, that one night he drank lemonade and had cold sweats when he woke up. Right, like
dude, just like Day drinking that lemonade.
Just trade his ass.
Yeah.
Oh my lord. Yeah, that is a weird. Like we should talk about that a little bit. We should get into that more for sure. Like, what does it take to be a prototypical NBA player in today's day and age? And it's like, well, you can look like Jokic or Luka. But oh my, his efficiency is insane this season.
Yeah,
like his 3-point field goal percentage came down to 43%. At one point, it was like 50%, and I was just like, he's hitting half his threes. Like, make a lot of sense, dog.
It literally, like again, whatever he tries out there is working. Like it's that level. It just looks like you often hear like the game looks easy for them, but this is just another level of that. Like it's like just like whatever he tries. Yep. Okay. Cool.
And how slow he moves isn't helping. Okay, like he's just kind of like, yeah, I guess I could just like tap the ball this way, and yeah, there we go.
The overtime against the Suns, where he like got up to the 20 assists. Like he had 3 straight assists, and they all were like they're all plays that after the fact look obvious. Like, oh yeah, like yeah, he was open, but like he just. Yeah, that's because of Jokic. Like he just has so much gravity and he has such good vision, and really, yeah, whatever he does, it just sort of opens up for him.
The passing out of his gravity, like using his gravity to complete passes, is like par excellence. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. Yeah, I think LeBron was like the closest thing when LeBron was like bum rushing the basket, and he would do the kick out, like the hammer pass or stuff like that. Like he would find ways to like just get in and then just kick it out.
And he's I think top 3 in scoring, rebounding, and assists, like which has never happened before. Like he's not just double digits, he's like elite at all of these skills. Like he's genuinely a great rebounder, and he's a great passer, and
he's not taking these Steven Adams box out rebounds either. Like he's getting his own damn rebounds. Yeah. 13 of them a game, as a matter of fact. Holy hell. That's enough for Jokic ball washing. We've done a lot, but probably not enough. All right, guys. We're going to wrap it up here. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Euno Lee. These are my co-hosts, Dan Grievitz, Colin Murphy. This has been awesome. We'll see you guys next week with this is going to be a brackets episode. We're going to do a brackets episode next week, so let's get that ready. And then hopefully Dan's feeling better. We'll prosecute Astros versus the people of Houston. But yeah, we'll figure it out. All right. We'll see you guys on the flip side.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
See you guys.
All right. See you. All good.